My name is Gayatri, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about Stolen Marriage by Diane Chamberlain. My t-shirt says, books, cats, life is good. But actually I would have preferred the one that says books, dogs, life is good. But that one was not available, unfortunately, because I love dogs. I also love cats, but I am allergic to cats, so I like seeing people's pictures and videos of their cats, but I can't physically be near cats or like an environment cats been in, because that would make me very allergic. Okay, now onto the book. This is The Stolen Marriage by Diane Chamberlain. This is historical fiction, and I started to read this book because I was looking through books to take for this trip here. You know, trying to think about what books shall I bring, and then in trying to decide that, I opened this book up somewhere in the beginning and read a few pages, and then I just really wanted to read it, so I did. So I did finish this before we came here. So yeah. So this book mostly takes place, no, I say mostly, it takes place in like the 1940s. Here is the synopsis. So it is about Tess, who it says here in 1944, is engaged to the love of her life, but then all of a sudden she breaks off the engagements, she marries a stranger and moves to another place. It's called Hickory in North Carolina. Tess's new husband is called Henry Kraft, and their marriage is kind of loveless. Anyway, yeah, the synopsis on the back sounds more as like a third-person thing, whereas the book is written from Tess's point of view, and so we know from the beginning, well, what she is experiencing, if that makes sense. The synopsis also says, but this happens a bit later on in the book, that a polio epidemic strikes this town. So basically in this town, the people don't like Tess. They consider her an outsider. A polio epidemic breaks out. So just a trigger warning for that if you're not ready to read about something like that. I am not ready to read like apocalyptic or dystopian kind of things with a virus, but this was a historical setting, and for that I was okay with it. I like this book. I didn't love it as much as some of the author's other books. So earlier this year in January I read The Dream Daughter, which was 10 out of 10. Probably will be one of my favorite books that I read in 2021, this year. I still like this. I just didn't love it as much. There were definitely some twists, especially later on in the book, that surprised me, and in some cases surprised me less so, but I liked them. I will say, just in case if you wanted to know, this takes place in World War II, and back in those days there was apparently, which I didn't really know, so this takes place in the United States, and apparently in the 1940s there was still very much a divide between white people and black people. Now the main character in this is white-ish, and so I just want you to be aware of that. There are some black characters in this, and I actually really quite liked a lot of the characters in this. Actually, I liked a lot of the characters in this. So, but I just want you to be aware of that. It does change in the book what the main character's perception is on it, but in the beginning, yeah, she is not overtly racist, but she does think that the black people and white people shouldn't, so the man that she marries, Henry Kraft, he has his own is it furniture, woodwork factory. He's quite rich, so it's a big house. He lives with his mother and his sister, and they have I think she's called housekeeper, and that is a black woman, and the family is white. So in that sense, the book taught me a bit about things back then, but I just want to say it. The N-word isn't actually in here except once when a black man refers to his hair. So I just want to say that. Instead, the word used for black people is not black people, it's a different word, but I don't think it's offensive, but since I'm not sure, I don't want to say it, just in case it is, okay? So if you want to know, feel free to ask me and I'll tell you, but I don't want to say it just in case it is in some way, you know? I haven't actually heard anyone use this word. Most people, you know, the N-word I know about, but so I don't think it's offensive, but just in case. Anyway, moving on, because that's, you know, most of the book is not, yeah. Anyway, there is a slight hint of, I don't want to say magical realism, because that's not what it is, no. Like a slight hint of belief in the afterlife in this, to just put it that way. I'm just rambling on, aren't I? Religion also plays a part, because the main character, I think, has grown up Catholic, but the new family, so Henry Kraft and his family, they are Baptists, and I had never heard of this. So I have heard of, like, you know, the whole Catholics versus Protestants, which I talked about in my review of A Column of Fire, but I hadn't heard of baptism, and I tried to look it up, and it didn't really tell me much, so I don't really know all of the details on that, because Wikipedia was not really helpful. Yeah. So anyway, she doesn't quite fit in a new place, and a lot of people are suspicious of her. She's working on being a nurse, and so when there is a polio epidemic, she would like to help, you know, help with that, but her husband doesn't want her to work. Anyway, so yeah, I liked this but didn't love it. This synopsis is also not something that would, like, normally appeal to me as much as some of the other author's books have appealed to me, and I have read quite a few of her books. There's also quite a few still for me to read. In the end, I rated this 8 out of 10. It was enjoyable. Definitely some parts more so than others. And there was one thing that was really odd, in that there is a prologue in this book, and when it, let me just show you. So when we start with chapter 1, can you see that? Yeah, we have this. It says August 1943, and then there's a page later on that says September 1943, etc. But this bit, the prologue, takes place in what I believe is June 1944. But it says here June 1994. When you read the prologue, it becomes apparent it is not 1994, it is 1944, based on some of the stuff that they mention. And so this seems a very strange misprint, especially because I think this is the paperback edition, and usually there's a hardcover first. So I don't think that this is like a first edition or something. Yeah, this edition first published 2018 by Pan Books. First published in 2017 by St. Martin's Press, New York. First published in the UK 2017 by Macmillan. This edition published 2018 by Pan Books. So it just seems a bit weird that that error is in there when this is not the first edition. It makes me wonder if, was this error also in like the first hardcovers and paperbacks? Like, it becomes obvious when you read it that this is definitely not 1994, but it's just a little bit confusing. That's all. Especially because the rest of the book, nowhere is it taking place in the 1990s. Like we don't get that far. It's historical fiction. So yeah, just want you to know going into that, most of this book takes place in the 1940s. Almost all of it, in fact, except like the very last bit, which is a little bit later in time, but definitely not the 1990s. And the author's note says here as well that some of this story is actually based on real events that happened in Hickory. All of the main characters are fictional, but yeah, in the back it has some information on her research and what she found and stuff, and that I thought that was interesting to read. So yeah, overall, 8 out of 10 or 4 stars. The author has written a lot more other books. This is all of what she's published up to when this book was published. And like I said, I've read some of it. Yeah. So yeah, maybe if you like historical fiction, it could be a nice read. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!